Okay, welcome back to My Mom's Basement. It is the From the Top Rope crew. Right now, Jared Carabas is joining me, and Brandon Walker may be joining in just a bit. Backlash is streaming live this Sunday, 7 p.m. on the WWE Network. And joining us to talk about it is the man, the myth, the legend, the 16-time world champion, the nature boy, Ric Flair. Rick, how we doing?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us to talk about this. And you're joining us because Edge and Randy Orton are competing in what they're calling the greatest match ever, right? And you are one of the GOATs. You've competed in so many of the greatest matches ever. So I wanted to ask you right off the bat, is there a match that did that for you in either your time as a fan, your time as a wrestler, or your time retired that you looked at and went, oh my God, I think that was the greatest match I've ever seen?
Um, that's. I'm just going to be honest with you. So there's no, I'm not for pulling punches. I think that if you look at the decades, I had a lot of great matches with a lot of people. But the matches that are most recognized by the industry and my peers would be my matches with Steamboat.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely. And I wanted to get to those. The trilogy, it's a classic.
yes, yeah, I wouldn't count. It's hard to put an hour match into and call that a great match because there are great hour matches, but nobody measures that. So, but I will put Chicago, which was the first one and the last one in Nashville, up against anything today, now, and forever.
I agree because I recommend those to people all the time. They were such
Yeah.
revolutionary matches, right? And they hold up so well. If you put them on right now,
Yes.
especially given the crowd reaction that they had, and like you said, the first match and then the third match, Chicago, and then Wrestle War.
Yes.
Did you know at the time that those were special, or were you going out with Ricky Steamboat
No,
every night and it was just kind of like that was what you guys were doing?
I had just turned 40, and he was what 30, 35 or 30. You should have seen us when I was 30 and he was 25. I mean, and it makes sense. I do think that we all get better too. I think everybody can get better every day if that's what they strive to be. You can learn something every day, and no matter how good you are. I use my daughter as an example. She can have the greatest match in the world, but she'll ask me or she'll ask Andrade, what could I have done different? Is there anything? I mean, it's that hunger to be the best. I mean, to really be the best, not just in the eyes of the fans, but you want to run that locker room. You want to walk in the gorilla. You want Vince McMahon to stand up. You want Hunter to stand up. You want Paul Heyman. You want Bruce Pritchard. Um, the people that are running the company now and the people that know. You want Michael Hayes.
Mm-hmm.
People that have seen it all to say, Jesus, that was special.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, I didn't even think I knew it was that good. There was a point in my life when I didn't even think about it. I just knew I was that much better.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew when I was with him, one of the greatest stories, which is untold, is Steamboat is half Japanese and half Hawaiian, as you know, right?
Yep.
I mean, half Japanese. And his mother is from Tokyo. So they made the mistake. Steamboat and I were on the same tour, and I was wrestling Jumbo Tsuruta in Japan and Tenru and all the guys, Choshu. And then they made a mistake. I put me and Steamboat on one night where he looks Japanese. And brother, they've never gotten over it. Mistake number one.
Mm-hmm.
No American style wrestling out in Japan when they want to see just everybody getting the hell beat out of them. Don't put on two guys like me and Steamboat because they're still trying to follow that match.
Yeah.
Bob, I can still see Baba going, but it's the truth,
You've had a ton of great all-time matches, and I'm not sure if you agree or not, but like wins and losses, that doesn't entirely matter in the grand scheme of things.
Nothing. It means nothing.
Right. So I'm not asking like wins or losses, what would you change? But is there a match in your career that if you could go back and rebook the finish to tell a greater story, is there a match that you would go back and rebook the finish of?
No, I can't say that there is. I don't dwell on that. For me, it's when I knew that I was, before I had all the, what am I trying to say? The self-confidence issues and all that with the Jim Herd, and then, compiled 3 times worse by Bischoff. I just knew how good I was. And and I didn't think like that. And the finish didn't matter. For me, and I think I do get that respect, and I do get that praise. It was me. It's knowing that the people went out of that building going, shit. I spent $5 in the 70s to sit in the front row, or if I spent $200 to sit in the front row. I got to see Ric Flair tonight, and man, he gave me everything that the promoter would let him do. That makes sense. Whatever. It didn't matter. And with Dusty Rhodes, it was the same thing. I've been there with Dusty when he's cut his damn ear off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And his arm, and just we wanted to be. We got in the ring. I'll never forget Starrcade with Dusty. We get in the ring. He looks at me and says, "Just like the opening of Caesar's Palace, Daddy. Let's enjoy it." He broke the tension. It was the dream, man. And we, it wasn't a me and Ricky Steamboat, but man, we gave him 30 minutes of blood and guts, man.
Yeah.
And that guy brought so much personality in the ring. You would have thought he was Ricky Steamboat. It didn't matter.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely.
Are you kidding? When the dream got through talking, it didn't matter. But the thing of it is, Dusty and I wrestled a lot of hour matches, half hour all the time. He was there. He didn't have to. He just believed in himself, and he was that good. Can you imagine Dusty Rhodes talking right now on the show?
He would be blowing everyone away.
Yeah, it's who he was, and that kind of character is something that you live and breathe. Me, much to the dismay a lot of times for personal problems I brought on myself. But what you saw in the 80s is what you got.
So when you saw a character like Dusty, were you like, jackpot, we're going to make so much money? This is the perfect,
listen,
the perfect parallel, right?
I wanted to be a rambling Ricky Rhodes. Vern Guy just said to me, "No, forget that. Ixnay," because he couldn't stand Dusty and Murdoch when I started. But he said, "Ric Flair is a cool name." And, one of the cool things that's happened in the last couple of years is I saw Terry Bradshaw, and he goes, "You got the coolest name in sports, Ric Flair." and I remember, thinking to myself, how boring is Ric Flair? I would say to Vern Gagne. But it's worked out, and but I feel like every time I saw Joe Namath, who's about 5 years older than me, but in high school, you read about him sleeping with 300 girls his senior year in college or something. That's my man, and it was good. And when they start talking about who the man is and who the GOAT is and all that, how do you ever leave Joe Namath? He only won 1 Super Bowl. But brother, if he wasn't the man, I don't know who was. And you look back at his life, whether it was Susie Colbert drinking a wine, and it's Joe Namath.
Yeah.
And that's what draws money. It's what draws money. People were going, holy cow, when he's laying in that lounge chair saying they're going to beat the Baltimore Colts. What were you thinking? Come on, Joe. I love the Baltimore Colts, but who wasn't pulling for Joe Willie, right?
Right. So, and then
those are the kind of people that influenced me, and I just took that and went farther with it, and I was just that confident, And then later on, obviously, I struggled with that, but while I had it, I just felt like I was on top of the world. And getting back to Randy and Edge, they've had those niches. Randy right now is on the top of his game. There's nobody better than Randy right now when he wants to be. And I tell him all the time, you know, when he's motivated and he's got a project that, you know, that winds him up, listen to his interviews. They're unbelievable.
This Edge program is a great example of that. His promos have been tremendous.
It's tremendous. Their interviews are to die for. Unbelievable, because they're personal, they have substance, and the audience can buy that. They're going, shit, you know, Edge was great. He suffered a horrific injury. I mean, on a personal note, I don't think Edge will mind repeating it, but the day that Vince called him, it was like getting stabbed in the heart.
Yeah.
He said, I've got to put you on a sideline. The doctor came back with the report, and I'm not going to have, you know, I can't have you in the ring. I can't, you know, I'm sure Vince didn't use these exact words, but his feeling was, you know, I can't have you get hurt. No matter how much I need you on the show, I cannot risk you getting injured. So in talking to Edge, I know that he has had multiple opinions, as has Steve Austin, because, you know, not to change the subject, but I was with Steve about 6 months ago. I didn't realize that Steve retired when he was 38.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. How much money is left on the table with Steve Austin, right?
Right.
Oh, my God,
you know,
yeah.
Because I wasn't there and I didn't get to see all of that. Are you kidding me? 38 Steve was done. And here's Edge, done in his 30s, 9 years ago. Was he 35 or 36?
Yeah.
See him come back, and don't think. I mean, that once this business is in your blood, you want to come back. So for Edge Sunday, this is an opportunity to prove to himself, to prove to Orton. See, even though they used to be tight and they probably, you know, are very cordial now, who knows? But he wants to prove it. He wants to show up and give Randy everything he's got. Yeah. And he wants to show Vince McMahon, and he wants to show the locker room. Fans aside, he wants to show that he deserves to be where he's at and to make every dime he's making.
Right. You mentioned the it factor. Like when you're looking at a guy like Dusty, you can see it with Edge, you can see it with Randy, you can obviously see it with yourself. When you're looking at guys today, is like when you see that in Dusty and you're like, that's a guy that I can make money with. Do you see that in guys today? And is it the same thing that you're looking for? Like, is that something that changes over time, or like, is it just like a time honored tradition where either you have it or you don't? And like, who do you think has it right now?
The most it of anybody in the company right now? Her name is Charlotte Flair.
That's right.
I love that answer.
Yep.
She's the biggest star in the company. And I don't have to be the only one to say it. Everybody knows it. If you take the match Saturday night and take the performance with Asuka, which was a completely different match than they've ever had, didn't have all the big major bumps and the moonsaults and all the rest, because they just wrestled the week before. They just went out and slugged it out, which was, you know, what it called for. And then you take the body of work that she's assembled, that she has an arsenal next to nobody. The corkscrew moonsault that they play on the opening of every show at 5'10" or 5'11", I guess she's 5'11", and 150 pounds. I mean, and she looks like $1 million. She dresses like a champion, acts like a champion. You know, she to me, she's too modest.
Well, I think you even it out for her, though. It's perfect. You're the proud dad that gets to be like, no, I'm bragging about my daughter. Do that.
And here's the deal. I don't care. I care what people think of me, obviously. But I got no problem saying it, because I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. Then people get to say he's full of shit. I'm not.
But who's going to say that about Ric Flair? Rick, nobody's going to say you're full of shit.
No. But here's the deal. If she's not the greatest, who is? Hello? She didn't get there trying to sell merchandise. She wants to be called the greatest. She don't care how many T-shirts she sells. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
wants that recognition of being the greatest, which she is, you know, and you know, every day she wakes up, and that's the same way Randy was when he came, and Edge coming from Toronto as a kid, and if you don't want to be that person, you're not going to get there.
Mhm.
And I don't care how many doors they open for you, how many opportunities are presented to you. If you don't have it here and here, you're not going to make it.
Yeah, it's got to
And
be
you've
in your
got
blood.
to know, you've got to know who you are walking through that curtain, because you're all by yourself and the whole world's looking at you. And you got to remember, I tell her all the time, that camera, you have to imagine that the camera, you're sitting under a magnifying glass, because that camera will sit on you the whole night. And everything that you do in that match, walking to the ring, walking back, until you walk back, you're on camera. And you're judged by everything, you know, and criticized for everything that you don't do. So it's a lot to think about, but she's at that now. And you know, Randy's there, and Edge is trying to get back there. And ask me who I'd like to work with. I mean, it's never going to happen. But if I could have had Roman Reigns to work with, they'd have to build new arenas.
I think you're right about that.
If I could go back and see that handsome son of a bitch right now, and he is, I mean, he's a god in terms of the way he looks, and he's a legit athlete, and he's a man. And man, I wish I could have been the guy. I wish I could have walked on TV, you know, and just said, "Hey, pal," you know. But I missed him by 20 years. But Roman's got the it factor, you know, just like Randy. It just, you know, it is. It's a once in a lifetime, and generational athletes like that, with everything come along, you know, once in a lifetime.
So going back to this greatest matches thing, one other match that I would love to touch on that I've watched countless amounts of times is the 1992 Royal Rumble. I assume this is one that's also brought up to you pretty frequently, right? It's the one that you won. The WWF Championship was on the line, and I feel like still to this day, it's pretty universally considered the greatest Royal Rumble ever. What do you think it was that made that Royal Rumble so great?
The number of guys that are in it that are in the Hall of Fame. Right place, right time. I mean, I like that recognition, but I don't think I did anything special.
You think it was just the roster at the time?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's someone said, but there's like 19 or 20 guys in the Hall of Fame. I mean, look. I mean, you're talking about everybody from the Boss Man, God rest his soul, Davey Boy, Sean, Brett, Hulk, Sid, me, Kerry Von Erich. I mean, it's a who's who. Jake. I mean, everybody. I don't want to leave anybody out, but I mean, everybody was in it, and so you're looking at that aura of talent, and that's when our business, I think, and then of course along came the Attitude Era, which I thought was a phenomenal time in the business for talent as well. Everybody came together, and Steve, and then Mick, and Hunter was, and Sean. I mean, then and Taker, who's always been, you know, the guy. But that Taker was in that match too. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah.
For me, I was lucky to be there, right time, and I needed. They had beat my brains out for a year and a half down there, and I just said, you know, he promised me this and promised me that. It's no need to wear people out with that story, but I just said, I'm gone. And I had no idea. I didn't have any promises. I wasn't promised WrestleMania. I wasn't told about the Royal Rumble. I just had to go back up into a world that was full of Ted DiBiase, Kurt Hennig, Taker, Hulk, Savage. I mean, look at the list of guys. Oh, Randy was in that match too. And then I said, hey, I walked away, and I got an opportunity to be with some of the greatest guys of all time for a year and a half. And then I made a mistake going home, which was good for a week.
You mentioned the Undertaker, and WWE Network has the special, The Last Ride,
Yeah.
on it right now. There's a scene in there, the WrestleMania after he loses the streak. He's I think it's WrestleMania 31 against Bray Wyatt, and Triple H notices Taker having this moment of self-doubt. And I know
Yes.
that you've had a moment like that as well. And it's, as a fan, it's like, it's crazy to me that a legend like you, a legend like The Undertaker, can have these moments so late into their career where they've already proven themselves. Like, it's not, I can understand you're trying out a new gimmick, you're trying out a new character, it's early in your career, but you and Taker have these moments later in your career, these moments of self-doubt. How, in your opinion, how do you get there, and how do you get yourself out of those moments?
Well, first of all, let me answer the first question. And Taker and I have talked about this, and I have with Hunter. Hunter said the same thing to me at least 20 times. What in the F is going on to Ric Flair? But I couldn't get it. They had beaten me up so bad in WCW. I mean, the last show, shaving me in my skin. I mean, this is just pouring it on. The NWO buried me in the desert. The Russo buried me. I mean, I'm trying to survive this. And the last thing we do is, and Eric Bischoff says to me, I can never forget it. Remember, word, you got to let them shave your head. Okay, Eric, you're just going to get your final 2 cents. And you know what I mean? And they shaved me in my son's head. I mean, hello. I mean, I'm Ric Flair. And he can look back on that and all that. But him and Russo, they just, and I don't know what, I didn't do anything to them. They just couldn't stand it that I was this guy that no matter how hard they tried to destroy me, people wouldn't let go of it. And I'm thankful for the fans. But getting to WWE, when Vince called me, I said, yeah, but I can't wrestle again. Me, I can talk all night long, Vince, but I can't wrestle. And sure enough, I'm there, and Shane comes over and says, hey, what do you think about wrestling my dad? And it's Royal Rumble. I said, no. I came back in November. This is already getting in. I said, I can't do it. I can't do it. And that fell on deaf ears. And then I'm sitting there lost again because I thought that match was horrible. Because I thought I looked like it didn't look good cosmetically, which has been an issue, obviously. I never thought of myself as being, a Ricky Steamboat body type, or Sean or Hunter, or just average body. But I could talk my way around it. Does that make sense?
Of course.
But I was broken. And then, Hunter sat down next to me in the building one night and said, hey, Taker wants to work with you at Mania. I went, what? I mean, I literally said, what? He said, yeah, I asked Taker who he wanted, and he wants you. He said, well, I said, what do you think? And I was like, I wanted to just start going. I wanted to get up and leave and go home rather than say, because I just knew, my God, Undertaker, me, WrestleMania, are you kidding? I'm 55 years old. Are you sure he picked? I mean, I couldn't get it, guys.
Yeah.
And again, he got me through, just like Sean got me through 24. Taker got me through that. And then halfway through it, I start to realize that I can do it here, right? It's never been physical with me. They can kill me. Knock on wood, my body is held up. But halfway through the match, as soon as I made that flip that I messed up the first time, he backed me up and he goes, let's try that again, kid. Now, I'm 20 years older than Mark, and he's calling me kid.
Yeah.
As soon as I made it over, he gave me the boot. Down we go. I was good. But prior to that, I was just struggling. I mean, the anxiety for that month going in there for me. And I can, those stories I tell on my 30 for 30 about talking to the sports psychologists.
Mm-hmm.
That's the God's honest truth. I've exhausted a couple of them. I go, listen, yeah, I drink every day and I wrestle every day, and that's right. Depending on where I am, that's going to happen too. But when you lose your self-confidence, and with Mark, it's physical. from multiple surgeries. With me, it was mental, but it's equally crippling.
Yep.
To make sense, if you're in the ring, worried about getting hurt or worried about a knee or a back and all that, I haven't experienced that. But, you know, because I've been relatively surgery-free, rotator cuffs and all that. But, I mean, that's all healed. You know, for him, 6'10", 300 pounds, doing stuff that Rey Mysterio does. I mean, come on. He's put him – he has. Diving over the top rope. I mean, hello. You know, that's the stuff the guys that are, you know, anywhere from 5'5" to 6 feet are doing, right?
Yeah.
And they don't do it as good as he does, and it doesn't look as good because he's 6'10" and 300 pounds. But I can only imagine how that is debilitating to him. It's just self-confidence, physically and mentally, can be very crippling. And I tell Hunter, I mean, Hunter was every night with me, and I go, and finally, with Evolution, I got in the ring and I started feeling good. And it wasn't that I couldn't do it physically. I just was overly conscious of my physique. You know, first of all, it's almost a rib put me in there with Hunter, Randy Orton, and Dave Bautista. Yeah. Come on. So, I never know whether that was a personal rib or what. With them, you never know.
Yeah.
But I did get my groove back on, and I felt great. But all of a sudden, then bingo, and I'm thinking Shawn Michaels. Shawn's the best worker in the business now. I mean, and he changed everything around, his moonsaults and all this stuff. That Shawn's the guy that brought that platform. You know, not like Lucha Libre, but you know, into the big scene. My best example is when I came home one day and my son said, "Dad, can you do a moonsault?" And I said, "What?" I said, "Can you do a moonsault?" I said, "No, I can't." I said, "Why do you?" Well, Shawn Michaels could do them. Why don't you? What? No, but I mean, then you're aware that, you know, the person you want to be their hero, they're looking at somebody else.
Yeah.
And he idolized Hunter. He read the bodybuilding book that Hunter had years ago. He idolized Shawn. I mean, you know, and where you want to be your kid's hero, all of a sudden you realize that the business is changing. And, you know, you were great and you had your time, but, you know, unless you want to go out and learn how to do a moonsault and practice and all that, probably not going to happen at 50 years of age. You know what I mean?
I bet you could do one now, though.
You could moonsault, Rick. You got a pool or something you could practice on. You could moonsault.
Yeah.
Listen, you know, Charlotte was in gymnastics at that time. And I said to her, "Coach, can you put a harness on me?"
They could flip you.
That never materialized.
Rick, this has been an absolute pleasure getting to chat with you. And that story about regaining your confidence was amazing. I'm so glad that you got it back to, because that final run of your career was absolutely
Listen, I've always
amazing.
been able to talk my way through it, but I just had a rough time getting there. But going back to Sunday, I think it's going to be great. You've got two great athletes, and I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm sure the fan base all over the world is going, Jesus, you know, that's going to be, it's Edge and Randy Orton. Randy feels like it.
Yeah.
And I mean, Randy's in a groove that's very few athletes ever get to right now, and he's at top age, just like the Queen. You know? So anyway, love you guys. Thanks for having me.
Love you too, Rick. Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to seeing that moonsault.
Remember to woo all night long.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.